So yeah, Breakbeat.
Yes, sir.
We're back.
We're back. Been a while.
It has. I think last time I saw you was like 5 years ago. Shit, so many different things was happening back then.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was a completely different sound. In fact, funny. How do you feel in terms of where the music is now? Like, as opposed to the game, how it is now compared to how it was 10 years ago?
Yeah, I feel... Good question. I feel that it's advanced and developed into something different. I mean, because back then, 10 years ago, it was the whole streaming and all of that was kind of just being introduced. It was like, you know, people just getting accustomed to it. But now it's kind of the actual norm. Things like the Billboard and all these other charts have accounted for all of these streams, and it's become an integrated part of the game. So, you know, back then it wasn't so much of a necessity as it was early days. So the good thing is, I think it's kind of allowed a lot of new talent to come through that, you know, the gatekeepers have kind of had that power taken away to a certain degree. But yeah, I mean, that's how I feel it's changed. You know, like it's allowed the gate to open and a lot more different artists and a lot more different genres to come in. Just manipulating the internet and utilizing, you know what I mean? Some people use it for good, some people use it for bad. But I mean, yeah, that's how I feel it's changed. A lot more stuff has gone digital. Everyone's got a smartphone now. You know, it's kind of, we went through that BlackBerry era, and then it kind of went to the iPhone, and then it's kind of gone Android, and then, so yeah, everyone's basically got a smartphone now.
Yeah.
So yeah, and obviously everyone's got these apps on their phones. So it's kind of just, it's changed the game, it's changed the dynamic, technology's taken over, you know, and it's developed. And yeah, I just feel, you know, there's things I don't like, which is, you know, certain people and organizations have had people infiltrate the systems and the organizations, and they've kind of taken over the playlisting and pushing artists that they want to push. But, you know, I think in any dynamic, you're always going to have people that are going to want to push their own agendas regardless. You can't really get away from that. But I mean, on the whole, I guess it's a good thing, man.
Of course, yeah, because we didn't have Spotify.
Mm-hmm.
And now you can just, at the touch of just one button, just that's it, your song just gets put out there to billions.
Mm-hmm.
Like billions. That in itself, when that hit, like, that must have just had mad super like positive ramifications for like,
yeah,
all the new up and coming artists in the industry, all the Yachis and the,
mm-hmm,
and even like over here, like how would you say, you know, over here it has done in terms of keeping up with pretty much the US, how it sort of, you know, sets the trends in some ways we kind of follow, but in terms of music and for our genre, because obviously it's no secret now, drill seems to be like one of the most, you know, popular famous genres right now around the world. You got people like Drake, mm-hmm, jumping on it. Mm-hmm. Heady One seems to be at the moment like, mm-hmm, the UK's number one face for drill at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
That just, for me, that felt like it kind of just came out of nowhere. It started like with America, and that kind of drill I was hearing over there, when I heard it over here, it was completely different. Like how would you say the UK drill scene has come up in a way, or evolved in a different way over the past 5 years as compared to American UK drill?
I mean, yeah, initially I think it was kind of like obviously the Chicago sound, with Chief Keef and, you know, Young Chop and, you know, like the 600 lot, LA Capone and DJ L. I think a lot of that sound is kind of, is what a lot of the UK has latched onto, and then they've kind of put their own spin on it, you know. the thing with drill that I think has catapulted it to where it's at is because urban music does come from the streets, and I think we don't really have that many trap kind of artists, but with the drill sound, I think it's something that kind of picked up because everyone's kind of affiliated with a hood, and beef is prominent no matter what, and people are always checking out beef. So the beef twinned with the music has everyone looking at it and kind of checking it out, which kind of pushes up the views. And then I think everyone just hopped on it, and it's just kind of, it's like adding fuel to a fire, do you know what I mean? And
of course, I mean, it's given birth to a lot of good UK new drill artists.
I think there are. I mean, to be honest with you, I think there are some artists that I actually check out myself.
Okay.
I check out people like Digger D, and 1011, CGM, them lot. I listen to some of Heady's stuff. I think Heady is more rounded. I think he kind of messes around with like the drill. He messes with the Afro beats, and because obviously he's a major signed artist now. So that, but then, I check out, who else am I listening to? I think some of OFB stuff. I think is kind of cool. Who else am I listening to? I mean, I do follow the sounds of like producers mainly, because obviously I'm a producer myself, so I'm quite into. There's a producer called Ghosty,
like M24,
M1 on the beat.
Was it M1?
Yeah.
Sorry, M1.
So but I mean, I check out like Ghosty. I check out because obviously Ghosty does stuff with 22Gs, because obviously the New York drill scene is something that I'm quite heavily into. And a lot of them are using UK producers for their beats.
I heard that right now in New York there's quite a lot of UK producers over there.
Yeah, man. Obviously you got people like 808 Mellow, and who else am I checking out? There's a guy called Jamaica Productions, but I don't think he's from the UK. I think he's from Europe or Amsterdam or one of them places there. But I like sounds, man. I like sounds, and I like good songs, and I think that with that whole thing, there are people within the genre that can actually make good songs with good hooks. And and obviously some of these songs have gone on to chart.
Yeah. So even some of the artists over there in America who've actually, like Pop Smoke was one of them. Yeah. Dior, I believe, Christian Dior.
Yeah.
That was a big song. Yeah,
it's a big song. Obviously, 5 Year Foreign he's been kind of like kicking things off as well. I mean, but once again, all of that stuff is heavily rooted in actual street beef, and I think if the beef is prominent and popular, then it kind of spills over into the music, and you can't get away from it. It just is what it is. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I think whether you look at that as a positive or a negative, it's like a positive negative.
Yeah,
it's together. I think it's like
you can't get one without the other.
No, it's not.
It's like trying to say, it's like tea. You need all the components. You need the tea bag. You need the sugar.
Yeah.
You need the milk.
And any one of them without, it's not what it is.
Yeah. So that's how I feel. Yeah. And once again though, it's part of the internet movement, and people being allowed to choose what they want to consume, because I feel like before it was more the radio stations and the gatekeepers forcing us what to listen to and what they're going to put on the playlist, and then everyone else will listen to it, whereas now I feel like the internet is forcing the media what to listen to.
So when you said like the radio stations, I'm glad you said that, because I wanted to touch back on something, because a lot of people don't know that you actually played on Top of the Pops. For anyone who doesn't know, Top of the Pops is the UK's, probably still till now, biggest music like primetime evening show that would come on, that would feature top 10 music artists, acts, live performances. And it would either be before a primetime show or afterwards. It was always, in that time. Ask anyone from the UK, they know about it. Now, in that time, the music industry being different at the time that it was that a time when it was more controlled by the radio stations, would you say?
Yeah, 100%. It was more based on your radio position and how well you was being supported by radio, how well you was being supported on like the TV slots, and how well you was being supported in like print magazines and those main kind of newspapers and articles. Like those were the mainstream point of contacts, and if you didn't have those boxes, then it was pretty much impossible to even get into that serious chart position. Do you know what I mean? So like back then it was like, yeah, I mean, if you didn't even have like Radio 1 playlist, you wasn't really getting anywhere. Do you know what I mean? It was literally impossible. You definitely wouldn't be, getting top 30, 40 unless you had that support, because that's just the way it was engineered at the time. And if you wasn't on that radar and part of that mix, yeah, it was pretty much impossible. It was even people even thought it was impossible for someone like me, born raised in East London, to even aspire to have that dream. I remember being in school and school teachers would be like, yeah, that's everyone wants to be a musician, but you might have to be an electrician and blah blah blah, because that's just how it goes. You're not really going to get to go on top of the pops. It was literally like a far-fetched dream that so even being in the mix to get to that point was definitely memorable. But yeah, I think it's a good thing to have, to experience, because that era's gone and it's not coming back.
I know, you must have got to play and meet with some interesting people.
Yeah, it was good because you're rubbing shoulders with other people that's charting at the same time.
Give me a name.
Well, I remember rubbing shoulders with like Elton John, Bryan Adams. There was a big band at the time called Green Day. They was knocking about. There was there's quite a few
that's big.
Yeah, for quite a few artists that were kind of Venga Boys was knocking around. I don't know if you remember them. Yeah, man, you just rub shoulders with them because everyone's in the building, everyone's recording. So yeah, it was a good experience, and you kind of just get to network and build. But it was a totally different world for me, because one minute I'm kind of like hanging out with my friends on the estate, and the next thing you know, I'm in White City in BBC recording Top of the Pops.
That must have been funny, being a black guy in White City.
Hilarious. It was absolutely hilarious. Sometimes I'll be there like, oh my god, I can't even believe I'm actually here. Do you know what I mean? This is actually impossible. And in the time period that it was literally impossible. I think the only other black artist or face that was kind of knocking about at the time was probably Dizzy Rascal.
Yeah, he was pretty predominant.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Other than that, I didn't even really see him. So yeah, it was kind of like, wow, I'm actually here. Do you know what I mean? I think the only other black face I saw was Andy Peters in the building. Do you know what I mean?
I think he actually said that recently, he on a This Morning program he had come on, where he actually said that again, that the lack of diversity still seems to be a problem in the mainstream. So yeah,
it was an interesting period of time.
Yeah, right. So that's interesting, because even I think back then, as much as the music industry has changed now, it still has a lot of some of the same elements in sort of the way that it operates and its relationship with artists. And this is where I wanted to go into it. Would you say now the music industry have got more harsher or nicer in terms of the kind of deals that they're giving these new generation artists these days?
That's an interesting one. I would say, for me, I feel like it just depends on what deal you sign, but
That's it.
I feel like a lot of the deals are quite, how can I put it? They want as much as they can get because everything's so open now. So, you know, like 360 deals are very common because of the money that they're going to want to spend on marketing or blah blah blah. They're going to want to get back as much as they can get, but ideally it's down to each respective artist and their management team to look over the contract and see what they're signing. But on the whole, I mean, a lot of these deals, they do seem pretty harsh in a sense of, you know, for wanting. But then again, it's kind of like, I feel that if you come to the situation with no leverage, then you kind of got to expect it. You know, like if you're coming to the table and you haven't got like a big buzz or an amount of like songs that's out there, a good catalogue, you know what I mean, then it's kind of like, what do you bring to the table to make the deal more favourable in your favour? That's how I look at it, you know. But
okay, so, you know, there's nothing more important than owning your own masters. I would say. Could you sort of explain that to the new generation of people, what that actually means?
Well, yeah, I mean, owning your masters is basically the intellectual property that the labels get to profit off of. A record label, well, first of all, the record is split into two. It's split into the master and then it's split into publishing. But a record label don't really care about publishing. They only care about the master. So that's that half of the record that they care about, and owning that master is the way that they'll be able to make money for whatever term it is, whether it's a lifetime or 10 years, 20 years, 50 years, whatever it might be. As long as they own that master, that's what will enable them to exploit the recording. So as an artist, you give that part up for an advance until you recoup or you fulfill the deal or whatever the terms of the deal is. So for an artist to own their masters, it would mean that they would have to basically fulfill the term of the contract or sign a deal where maybe they kind of license the master to the label for a certain amount of time, and then, you know. But a lot of artists aren't kind of versed in studying, so they kind of go into it and they look at the advance, you know, I'm getting 50 grand or I'm getting 100 grand, and they give up the master and then they burn through the 100 grand, and then that label will obviously get to own that master for the term, and you also have to pay back that 100 grand as well.
Well, this is it, because it's based on, you know, your record sales. Can you sell that many records and recoup back that money? There's no use going out splashing all that money. You know, everything has an expense, and I think that's another trap that these new artists fall in. They get the advance and they spend it and spend beyond, and forget that, you know, you do need to make songs that's going to recoup all of that money back. And a lot of them just, I think, go into the minus and don't realize, and then when by the time whatever's recouped back is recouped and they're still left with nothing.
Yep.
Wow.
Definitely happens. A lot. You know what I mean?
Wow. Have you ever known anyone personally to you in a situation where they've had a dispute about their masters, or have you had a dispute about your masters?
Me, I've never had a dispute. I've had disputes over like splits and percentages.
Okay.
But yeah, I've never had that. But I know countless amount of artists who I've worked with who have had, you know, issues about, you know, maybe not being able to get out of their contract, or maybe being having misinformation and, you know, signing deals that were less favourable on their side, and then, you know, maybe a few years down the line or whatnot, they're trying to battle to get out. But yeah, loads of disputes, because I think people look at the here and now and the front end, and, you know, but as they get into it and get down the line, then they start to question and look at things, and maybe they get a bit more smarter as time goes along, and they realise what they've done. But I mean, I just say to everyone, you got to get with people and get the right advice, and really look over the terms. Don't just look at just the advance. It's more important to look at what the terms of that advance is, and
Yeah, it's like a funny story I heard online. This guy wanted to buy this guy's, I think it was a percentage of this guy's record, and the guy didn't even know if he hadn't even heard the track yet, and he didn't even know if the guy was even buzzing, but he heard the guy's name and he thought, yeah. So he turned up with his lawyer, and some people are going to know who I'm talking about, and this guy was offered, I think it was something like 30k or a point. I think it was like 30k or 20k and a point or something like that, or you can take the 30k. I think this guy wanted to, I think he wanted to rent a recording studio, but he wanted to charge a certain amount of fee, and the fee was too high. So the artist was like, look, instead of charging all of this fee for this, how about I pay you like 20k and then give you a point off of my album sale? So obviously the guy was looking at like, what the fuck, I'm getting less, and he's like, no, you're gonna get a point off of this. And I think what it was is, people not understanding the terminology, not reading things properly, not using the time to sort of educate themselves to understand the language that's used, and to understand facts and figures and percentages. The point turned out to be a point off of an album sale that was 13 million.
Okay.
So it was like 1.3 mil that just went out the window, and he didn't get anything because he wanted the upfront fee, because he felt at the time he was getting duped. Because again, someone didn't. So I really understand what you're saying. I think it's really important for these new guys coming up in the game to really get like an understanding as to where this is going. People get into bed with people without wearing condoms and wonder why they come out with sexually transmitted diseases, and this is just what it is. And I think if you look at a business like that, every time you get in and stay protected, I think you'll always come out all right.
Yeah, and don't be scared to question things. If you feel like you're being rushed, or no, we have to do this right now, then I think allow it, because you are supposed to be in the know, because once you commit to something, it's a commitment. So you might as well ask as many questions as you can up front, because it's a commitment, and once you put pen to paper, it's going to be hard to battle to get out of it. So you might as well know everything that you can know up front before you commit. It makes sense. Don't be pushed into thinking it needs to be here and now, or it's gone, because if it is, then it's probably not even worth it anyway.
Like you mentioned earlier, like you had a dispute over a split. Was that like with like, say, like the label, or with like, say, someone you done like a feature with? Because I think there might be some youngsters that might be going through similar shit, or similar things like that.
It's with ideally, it comes down to the label. Sometimes it's the artist as well. The artist might try and reverberate it through their manager so that it takes the heat off of them, but then it's actually their wishes. Do you know what I mean? Or sometimes it might be the label. But I think I've tried and been in situations where it's all different parties.
Have you had that a lot, where you get certain music artists who, no one's saying any names, but they talk the tough, you think they're tough, and then you get the message through the manager and you think, why couldn't you just tell me that yourself?
Yeah, loads. But the great thing about it is that I learned that if the music industry isn't a place that you come to looking to establish great friendships, if anything, I would look to establish good business relationships where you've got this kind of bond with people that you can do good business with, because a lot of people like to use the friendship thing, and you know, they won't want to tell you certain things, and they go to their management and they're trying to work brain, and then that manager's coming to deliver you things. But at the same time, I've obviously got my lawyer on standby, because I've learned that that's who's gonna have my best interest at heart. So yeah, it's like, don't come into this thinking that it's about, you know, because a lot of people initially, when I came in, it was like, yeah, come here, alcohol, yeah, free this, and yeah, and it's just, they're trying to do all of that, but then when it comes to the actual business, they don't want you to get the slice of the pie. But do you know what I mean? But they'll want you to get maybe a free tracksuit and some free liquor backstage, and it's like, I can't buy anything or further my business with a free tracksuit, a free sportswear tracksuit, or free liquor backstage, or all you can drink. Do you know what I mean? It's cool when I was 17, 18, 19, 20, like that was mad. But you want to do certain moves, you know, in your life. Try and present them with a free bottle of alcohol and see where you get. Do you know what I mean? Try and get a mortgage with a free sportswear tracksuit and see how far it gets you. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
right.
Let me know how that goes, because maybe I'm doing something wrong. Do you know what I mean? Because it didn't do anything for me. Do you know what I mean? So,
but it's true though. It's true, and I think that's what a lot of people are using to sort of blindside people who are really young and impressionable.
Yeah, of course.
I think that's what it is. We'll just get you the goods, and it's always cheaper to, you know, get someone the goods and then just keep the receipt and just send it back when they're not looking, and get the cash back afterwards. 360 deals. I think that's what that goes back to, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy, and this is why I'm kind of not on, you know, like, people will get into this kind of trance over artists and be like, oh my god, it's this person, and I've never ever been into that. Do you know what I mean? I've been in the room with some of the biggest artists in the world, like actual legends, and then you've got people that will actually melt over, like, you know, these artists that came out 2 years ago, and I'm kind of like, really? Okay, cool.
I bet that must be difficult, because you, as someone who's been around and has seen a lot of people, to see other people give that reaction to people who, let's say, haven't quite done the mileage. It must be weird.
Very weird. Very weird. And that's the thing, it's kind of like, almost, because we're in that transitional period at the moment where, remember, everything's transitioned to YouTube and Spotify and streaming. And so it's, people are becoming tranced off of that, whereas in my time, when I first came in the game, it was about TV, radio, or it actually was radio, and then it was like MTV. Oh my god, that's what that person looks like. Oh, that's the video. And then it's like, oh, that person's got an appearance now, and then it's really hit you. Do you get what I mean? Whereas now it's kind of like instant, Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, all at the same time, million views in a week, bang, and then suddenly people are like, yeah, that person's a legend. And it's kind of like, I remember when you had to actually sell like 1 million records over the counter. Do you know what I mean? And now people are talking about like digital views, where a big percentage of those views ain't even real. Do you know what I mean? And then the thing is, they're getting plaques now, and I'm like, okay, well, I've got plaques, but I know with my plaques, it's like, those artists, I know that they sold that amount over the counter, and then it's like, these lot, you know, they've got the label pushing at this playlist, they've got this campaign and people clicking on this and bots and all of that, and they've still got the same plaque. And I'm just like, it's almost made the plaque game, it's like, it's almost rendered it a bit,
devalued it.
Yeah, devalued it in such a way where it's like, because now it just means that you can just kind of Google campaign it off, and now, you know, so that's very weird. And then now these people walk in and then they've got an attitude with you, and they're kind of acting as if to say, you know, I don't know, it's kind of, it is very strange, and I've never played into it, to be honest with you, no matter who it is, you know. I've never played into it. I think it's because I have a respect, because I'm a lover of the art. I love the art and I love the art form, and so therefore my respect is given to those people who I believe are actually truly have mastered their art.
Okay.
Do you get what I mean?
And that's understandable.
And I feel like a lot of these people, you know, they haven't mastered any art of anything. They've just been able to get, you know, maybe a good person to market them on the internet, and they've got a swaggy outfit, you know, with the latest brand, and they've put it all together and made a nice video, and then suddenly, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if you was to say to them, you know, like, make 12 songs that could touch people's hearts, and, you know, attack them all differently, like without sounding the same on every song, because a lot of these artists, once you've heard 2 songs, you've literally got the best out of them, you know, they're done, you know. So yeah, I just, it's kind of strange, but at the same time it is what it is, you know. It is what it is.